October 18, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is what the chart looked like today. This is how I marked it up. Go down in the descriptions below. You can see where I actually took my trades and where I thought I saw setups. I only took one trade today. There was no real piece of economic data to really cause the market to swing any which way. It just kind of had a slow but very gradual sell-off. I tried to fit like an overall trading channel to kind of fit it at the end of the day, and it kind of looked like that, but it didn't really help during the actual trading day. So I'm going to get into the trades now. Overall, there was a lot of twists and turns because this blue line is the EMA, and I found trading today was a little tricky. It's kind of difficult. There was a lot of almost setups, and then there was also a lot of areas to probably get trapped. So I'm going to go through the trades right now. There's the pre-market highs and the pre-market lows. Just kind of have it marked up here. It doesn't really come into play. You could argue maybe the pre-market lows, it comes back up, visits it, and then rejects back down. Other than that, there wasn't really quite a range to play just based off the pre-market highs and lows. So this is the pre-market. And right here, right around when it opened, I could tell we were kind of in a downward trending sell-off. Wasn't really quite a trading range because this is the highs. Even if you drew tops or made the high here of the trading range, you could say there's a little bit of confirmation, but it never comes back. And the bottom, it's a little bit weak to say that this is a true support because it didn't quite bounce that well here, and then it kind of broke through here. So I thought we were kind of, initially I thought we weren't really going to be in a trading range and looked like things are just kind of in a bearish sell-off. So on the open, things are looking pretty choppy. And the first setup I see is a new low here. The first entry short pulls back. And I did have this line drawn because I had one touch, two touch. I wasn't really sure where this was because it could have ended up being a little more shallow. This could have been something closer to this. So it wasn't until later when I actually matched these guys up that this was potentially another key entry point. So this is a third touch, and it is kind of confirming the downward yellow channel resistance. And it looks like there is a potential rejection off this midline of the pre-market. But again, this pre-market is drawn here and here. If you dragged it a little bit lower, then it would actually potentially have an overshoot. So I wasn't really sure. So I had to just kind of leave it alone. Plus, this is kind of a doji. In a flash down, you have a confirmed second entry short, and I said, I'm just going to wait for a lower high confirmation. Unfortunately, the lower high never shows up. So this trade, I just ended up missing. It goes down to this green channel, breaks out, makes a new low. So I'm thinking the downtrend potentially might have played out, and maybe there's a support here. So there's a chance that it might actually come back up. So I was just looking for a potential setup. Kind of chops around. There's no real clean setup. It falls into this trading, what I think is a trading range, which is captured by this blue box. So it touches once, twice, three times. It's your triple test, and then once, twice on the bottom. And here I do see a new high. It's a first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Now I'm thinking this second entry long is going to fail. The reason I'm thinking that is because so far it looks like this downward yellow channel might actually be in play. Didn't mean to do that. This downward yellow channel might be in play, so that could be considered a touch and a rejection. So I thought there's a potential setup here, a decent signal bar, and even though the EMA is flattening, I'm not too worried about a resistance bounce because, as you can tell, prices aren't really respecting the EMA. It's bouncing above and below. Turns out it would have worked, but I didn't take the trade. I noticed a failed breakout of this trading range. Also, I want to just point out that this is going with trend, so that there's another reason to have taken this trade. Then it makes a new low. It's a first entry short. Then it creates a second entry short. Now, I actually entered this on the engulfing bar because when this actually opened here, it ticked one tick below here, and it just kind of chopped around. I like the fact that it went one leg up, pull back, second leg up, and I thought there was enough momentum to hit and get out before I hit this top of this resistance. It's a little bit riskier, but I thought it was kind of a bear trap because it went first entry short, pull back, second entry short, coming after a failed breakout. I was thinking it was going to touch the other side maybe. So when it ticked one tick below and never really came back and chopped around, I dropped in my order, and I wasn't even sure I was going to get filled, but I did. Chopped around and I got my quick scalp, and that's pretty much what I wanted. I wasn't going to try to press it to the top just because this yellow channel has been in play. So I just didn't want to potentially see a rejection to come back down. Turns out it would have worked out, and it went right where I thought it might have gone, which is the top of this range. And it continues moving, breaks out of this green channel, has an overshoot. Now I'm thinking it's going to come back down to this side. It does. It keeps going. Pretty aggressive move. Some new high, first entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long, then you have a third entry long, but I don't really see a clean setup, so I wasn't prepared to take anything. It looks a little congested here. It starts moving back up. This is ill-fitting channel. It makes one leg up, pull back, and now you can see it actually makes a second measured move, this orange line going up. So it's one leg up, pull back, second leg up, bouncing around, and actually see a new high. It's a first entry long, pull back, second entry long. Now, when I saw this in real time, I was thinking if this actually closes one tick below, there could be a failure here. And that does click one tick below, but as this was flashing around, I was hoping to drop my entry here, one tick below this, but it never came back for me. By the time this candle closes, the trade has already been made. So on this particular setup, I would have had to have just kind of trust that this setup is going to work, and the measure moves completed, it might come back down. So I'd have to take it pretty confidently right here. Otherwise, there's no real area to take it now, because taking a one tick below here is dangerous because you might actually have the EMA create that bounce. And it flashes through. That's okay. So I missed this trade, but that's all right. Then prices continue moving down. You have first entry long here. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but it's way, way too far. You don't really want to take something like this, even though there's enough room to the EMA. Feels like you're trying to pick the bottom. Drops around, gets congested, then continues moving down. Falls into the second channel. I don't quite see a good setup. It's very congested here. Drops around, and then I do see a new low here. It's the first entry short, pulls back. This is about to create a second entry short. Here, it confirms the second entry short. The problem with this is, even though the signal bar is pretty good, it's the second bar, which is the doji-ish trigger bar, makes me a little bit cautious because this is a second entry short above the EMA, but EMA has been holding prices down. So what I wanted here was to wait and look for a lower high, preferably right. So I wanted prices to come down, pull back up, reject off the EMA, then continue down. Then I would feel confident taking that lower high. So you don't quite get a lower high at all. It goes all the way down, so it just kind of leaves without you. It's unfortunate because this might have been a pretty good setup. It consolidates. So actually I had this blue consolidation area here, then I have another consolidation here. It's chopping pretty well. And so at this point, I'm wondering if there's a larger trading range. This bigger blue one here, I haven't drawn yet. You know, first entry short, second entry short, but this is a weird kind of neutralish doji bar, so something I don't want to take. Drops around, and so although this is the potential resistance up here, I thought there might have been an intermediate resistance right here, but I wasn't sure, so I was playing off the idea potentially there's some kind of range, which this could be the top, and this would be an overshoot, and then the bottom would be right where the bottom of this blue box is. As you see, a second entry long here, it's a new high. You have first entry long, pull back, second entry long. Now the second entry long is after the break of this green down channel. So it looked like it broke and I already tried to make one attempt down. Or you could have counted this as a clean break and the attempt down was already made, low here. So it was a little unclear for me. And the other thing going for it to take a long is you're potentially hitting the bottom of this trading range. So this could be a support, but I wasn't sure. So I just leave it alone. You do technically have a lower high here, excuse me, higher low. So it's actually first entry short, second entry short failure. But if you didn't see that, then it's actually a confirmed lower, higher low here, which confirms the second entry short, first entry short, second entry short failure, pulls back. This is actually probably a decent trade to have taken. It's a good signal bar, but I didn't take it. Comes up. So now I'm thinking the trading range is actually this solid blue line and the bottom here. It looks like it's respecting it. Comes out. Now it breaks out above, and that's where I actually draw a second line here. And I eventually just made the trading range to the top here and the bottom here. And this is just an intermediate resistance point. There's a fail breakout here, comes back down, chopping around. Not really sure. I do see this new low. It's first entry short, pulls back. Here it's about to create a second entry short, but I also see it's a new high. It's a first entry long, pull back, second entry long. Now, what I'm thinking is prices are going to come back down. So I'm looking for failure on the second entry long, and I'm looking for, if that failure occurs, it also confirms the second entry short. But I want it to tick below this guy as well as below the EMA. So that would be kind of what I was looking for, kind of an ultimate setup. And it is rejecting off this resistance as well as potentially this top of the resistance. Flashes down. So I wasn't prepared, but when I saw this flash down and come right back up, I wasn't thinking on the next candle to have my entry ready because it looked like there was enough momentum and buyers coming back in to close it way close to the high. So if this closed a little bit lower, then I might have placed an order for the next candle to get to print to hopefully come back, get me, and continue down. So it looked like it would have worked either way. If I put one tick below here, it would have got me and then flashed down. But at the time, after the close of this one, I was a little hesitant because it looked like it ended bearish, but it came back at the last moment and pushed all the way back, almost closed right where it opened. So that just gave me pause, like, okay, well, that's something to be a little bit cautious of. Looks like if you did enter like one tick below here after this one, so you would have gotten it, probably gotten a scalp, and if you waited again and tried to take it afterwards, the trade would have been made and most likely potentially stop you out. So it would just been risky to try to take a trade after the move's already been made. Prices then continue down, chops in this larger blue range, which I'm just kind of staying out of at this point. Breaks down. I do see a second entry long here. It's a new high. It's a first entry long, second entry long, also potentially a fail breakout. And this is the bottom of the resistance. So it's a little bit risky because I don't like the looks of this signal bar. And then you don't really get a higher low. And it flashes up. It just went right up and then it came right back down. I do see a second entry short here. It's a new low. Actually, I took it as here. I saw a big visual first entry short, pull back, second entry short. Now this doji closed right here. So it's a little bit, I would say, risky because it is being rejected off the top of this trading range. But it was this big spike up, a big spike down, and then you have 4 candles in a row pushing all the way back up, and then it gets congested here because you have like these candles and then this doji. So it made me, I could have made a case to go long and to go short. So when I come into situations where I thought it could be long and short, it makes me pause and think, well, if you can make a case for both directions, then it's just better to sit it out because my experience level would tell me, you really don't know. You'd be gambling at that point. You want something to be clearly leaning one direction or the other. When prices continue moving down, chops through. At this point, it breaks out of this blue range now. It's continuing to move down, chops around. Looks like it's kind of settling into this ugly range here. There are second entries, but they just didn't look clean. Like this here's a new high, first entry long, second entry long. You could argue that this is going to be a rejection, but you would only have a confirmed rejection once it broke below this really pretty much bullish signal bar for second entry long. So it ticked one up and it trapped everybody. To only know that for sure it's coming back down, you'd have to take it either on the engulfing below this guy, and then if you waited till this closed, then it's definitely too late for this type of trade. I just kind of saw that kind of throughout the day, so it made things a little trickier for me to see. Then prices continue moving, breaks into down through this channel, flashes back up, goes through this orange channel, breaks out, makes a new high after this breakout, drops around, continues up. So then I think there's a green channel going up. So far it fits pretty nicely. But unfortunately, there's like, in this area, I call it kind of, there's a bunch of second entries, but I couldn't trust them for one reason or another. So I'm going to mark them out for you. It's a new high. It's a first entry long, pull back, second entry long. I don't like it because the signal bar is terrible. You also have a new low, first entry short, second entry short. Again, you don't have a good signal bar. You also have a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. Again, you don't have a very good signal bar, but then you do have this channel established now, but still not clean enough for me to feel comfortable taking a trade. Then prices break out of it, it chops around, goes into this consolidation area, starts moving back down, and this is just kind of a lot of noise now. It makes it difficult for me to see a good setup. I mean, there are mediocre setups, but I want to try to take only good setups if I can see it. Otherwise, it just feels dicey. Prices then continue moving up. It breaks out of this area. So right here, it looked like we made a localized low. And as you can see, the price action all day has been pretty choppy, very whipsaw, kind of ugly. I do see a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long. I actually thought this might have been a good trade, but the problem was, so actually it broke out of this and it's actually going to break. It broke out of this channel, which also made one leg up, pullback, second leg up, and now it's broke out, made one attempt, and I'm thinking it might have a second attempt. So if I entered, it would have been one tick above. I would have gotten filled, most likely gotten my scalp on this candle. If not, definitely this green one. If I waited too long, then it would have come back down, potentially stop me out, depending on how you set up your stop. I also saw a new low here. Actually, I saw a new low here. First entry short, second entry short. The second entry short, there's these two signal bars. So I take the last one as a signal bar. Unfortunately, I wanted this last one ideally to maybe tick one tick below, or I wanted this green bar to be not so strong, because what happened here is this green bar was opened here. It never came back and broke below this open. It flashed up really strongly, and then it closed right here. Then it opened right where it closed, bounced around, flashed, and then it came all the way back down, met the same bottom. So this is a twin bar that are opposites. And ideally, for something like this, I wanted this green bar to not have looked this strong, ideally maybe lower, right where my cursor is, or for this one to be not the signal bar, become a trigger bar and tick one tick below here. So that gave me pause. On top of that, this felt like it's a counter trend trade because you just had a big push up, consolidation. This could be the start of a second leg. So adding all those factors up, it didn't really feel like I had a good idea what the bias was. Turns out if you did take the entry here, you would have gotten filled. And if you waited for a lower high, you don't get one. So it would have just ran away with you. By the time you get a lower high here, the trade has already been made. Then prices in, continue chopping around, goes in this ugly consolidation area, comes up. And I'm thinking there's not necessarily a channel, but I drew this as a trend line here. And I wasn't sure where the bottom was at this point. And it just looks choppy but gradual. And every time it comes back to the EMA, I'm looking for a potential setup. You do have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. You could argue there's a potential second entry short trade here, but I just didn't. This actually, let me just go ahead and mark it. This is actually a possible trade. Okay, so it's first new low, first entry short, second entry short, decent signal bar, a possible trade. I didn't see it in real time until just now, I think. Prices then continue moving. At this point, I draw the bottom of the range, bottom of the channel here. Again, it's looking a little ugly. You do have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short. This is a signal bar that's a little bit too doji-ish. Then prices continue moving up. It looks like it almost rejects off of here, but it's close enough. You have a new high, first entry long. Technically, I have a second entry long, but this is a terrible signal bar to get a trade ready on. It just chops around in this consolidation area, which doesn't look really clean. It's just too congested. Then it breaks down below. You have just these small little side-by-side candles. It hits the bottom, and now it's bouncing off again. So at this point, I'm pretty confident this red channel is valid. But it's also getting very late in the day now. So I'm kind of just setting back now and just being happy with my one trade. We do have a new low here, first entry short, second entry short, but the second entry short above the EMA, clearly in the direction of the bias, which is fine. But you do have to respect that the EMA is right here, and you just, yeah, even though it broke out of this red channel, it could act as a resistance, but it kind of failed as acting as a resistance. So even though it's a first entry short, second entry short, to go short, you're going with trend, which is good. Here, you wouldn't have thought to get an order ready by the time this candle forms. The trade feels like it's already been made. And of course, it chops around. It's going into the last 10 minutes of the day. and just gets pretty noisy. So this is kind of how I saw the charts today. I felt a little trickier today just because it felt like a roller coaster where prices were above and below the EMA multiple times, whipsaw. It wasn't a very clean trading range, except for maybe right here. And there was just smaller congestion areas. You could argue there was a potential trading range here, but it didn't quite make consistent highs or lows. I mean, it touched it a few times, but then later it wouldn't really respect it. So it was a little bit more subtle and tricky for me today. So hopefully that was helpful.